Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm continuing with the study of Matthew 27, 6 to 13, and we're at Aceldama. In the previous study, I was looking at how King Charles now, along with Moth, which is me, are beaten up over this third power that we see along with us, and then creating the scourge, which is scourges between, which is cancer, heart disease, consumption, that being tuberculosis. So Pilate says, as governor says, "Do you not hear the things that they say against you?" He's talking to Christ. I would think that with the messages of 2020, the messages of Islam were predicting three events. These three events is a Taliban insurgency for 2021. The second event was civil unrest. It was civil unrest in America, I said, in South Africa, between Cape Town and Pietermaritzburg, and in Zimbabwe. And the third event was a coming of Christ, and I said it's a first coming of Christ in a series of his comings, because we know that he first will come, but he won't come physically. It's a message that comes. But we have seen in this 4 years that it's not just a message that came, but it was the beginning of the first Sunday law. The first Sunday law, when it begins an Adventism persecute other Adventists. So we saw this in this 4 years when I had to contend with the demons of people I already know, feeling them and hearing them, and they were beating me up and scourging me, while at the same time I was in this type of insect phase spoken of by Ezekiel 4 verse 4, which just almost feels like a war between me and King Charles over these issues. So the Taliban insurgency prediction was, I prophesied it in 2020, and then when it happened in 2021, they didn't want to believe that these messages are messages that they should know as Adventists. So instead of being for the messages, they were against them. But the funny thing about this is that from the Ukraine and Russia war was an Israel and Gaza war. When it was an Israel and the Gaza war, people were sitting in Israel. I could already see that it was the League of the Jews. When the League of the Jews happens and the Catholic Church in Rome binds up with the literal Jews to form this union between them, I could already tell that it was already time for that first Sunday law. When Hamas came and destroyed literal Jerusalem in Israel, I could tell that the literal predicting that which is going to be spiritual. It was time for the spiritual application. It was time for the prediction of Jerusalem, of the destruction, the prediction that predicts the destruction of Jerusalem. So these girls, they see what's happening between Israel and Gaza, but what they do is they move and they become anti-Semitic. They want to be in political parties such as the EFF, and they quickly move to the Democratic Party, the DA here in South Africa, and I was stuck in the Conservative Party, but I'm not a member, because I'm not in the member role, but I was for the Republican Party, specifically the Republican Party in America. But they literally moved and became members pushing the ideology, as it seems, of Team Blue on Facebook because they were trying to show themselves as in DA and the EFF. The next thing they did, they took the ANC, the DA, and the EFF, and they formed a triangle party. They formed a party where they were working together as these three parties. When they were working together as these three parties, income came and donations came from other countries such as the Netherlands, and they were borrowed money in America. And that money was then, I would assume, was taken and used to form this event with the demons to come and fulfill the event of crucifixion, as they took me from Esther and they wanted to put me as Jesus Christ, but not just Jesus Christ the anointed, but Jesus the crucified. These girls then took my message of the coming of Christ, and they couldn't wait. They couldn't wait any month longer. After the death of Queen Elizabeth, they quickly came to me. Queen Elizabeth passed away and was buried on the 19th of September 2022. I remember very well because I attended the funeral online. Straight after, on the 1st of October, it was not long after the funeral, and the entourage was already here. The entourage where I would not know whether it was the ANC, the DA, or the EFF, but I knew that it was influence that came from those girls. And if it came from those girls, it came from the Adventist Church, when they were fulfilling their own prediction of having me as Christ the crucified. Their reason of having me as Christ crucified was not pushed forward by them wanting the power of the Holy Spirit. They wanted the glory of the messages because they saw that that glory came with money online. So they wanted the money, they said, when they enter into Pan that they want. So they were trying to rob me of my money. When you put this on the line, you can see that 2021 to 2024 is 4 years. And in this 4 years, you can see that my message of Islam is a message of destruction, and not just destruction, it's a message of destruction, clean up, and building. But you can see that 2023 to 2024, as I would mark it, it's a cross. It's a cross because from 2023 to 2024 was when these girls, Adventism, pushing the political leaders here in South Africa, came to me. They came to me, and I would assume that this was on England's command to come and push the insect phase. So I would hear witches say they're eating me up, and then later on see insects and all of what had happened, which was then the insect phase that Ezekiel 4 verse 4 was talking about. This event, when we move forward from 2025, is repeated and enlarged. It's repeated and enlarged for another group of people, the Levites and the Nethinims. It would be understandable that they came to me now as a person who they saw came from Jeff's movement. But when you look at me and you see the time I entered, which is 2015, you can see that I'm not just a priest, I'm actually a full Levite. I'm a full Seventh-day Adventist. If there is anyone who is going to be tested at the number 70, which is the time of the Levites, it is me. Meaning that they pushed backwards my time of affliction and put it at the midnight to midnight cry, when I should have been adorned as a woman ready for marriage with Ahasuerus, they came to kill me instead. When I'm a Levite and I came in 2015, I should have been adorned, and that money that they robbed me should have been money that was used to put jewelry, put perfume, and hire people to come and sort me out. But I'm not sorted out, as you can see. I'm not sorted out. Instead, they took their entourage to come and make fun of me over my background when I could have fixed my background, over my family when I could have helped my family financially, over my debt when I would have paid my debt a long time ago. They took their entourage to do a work that God did not call them to do because they felt that they needed to, and that my money was their money, over them bullying me to take it away from me. So you see this repeated again. In 2030 to 2039, as I've put on a line, you can see that the brethren who cast me out in 2020 are the brethren who are tested. And as they're tested with the test of the insects, I would assume. But they're in the middle of a series of Sunday laws. So by the time they're tested, it's a midway point where everyone is so full on ready for that time of the Sunday law that when they're tested, it's going to feel as if to them it's the Sunday law, when actually it's not there yet. It's not there yet. When it's the time of the Sunday law in the 2040s and it hits on Adventism, everyone is going to be shaken in the world. Of course they should be. When you begin in 2025 and you can see that National Sunday Law in America hits nationally and then starts spreading into the world, then you can see that from there, by 2030s, everyone is going to be head-on screwed, head-on straight. They're going to be set in their minds to see and recognize that we're heading to a destruction of Jerusalem. But the destruction in 2030 will be to the temple. When we look at what happened in 2023, and it happened to me as an individual, I'm not sure with other people, but if you can look at King Charles from the 1st of January, and he's talking about him being scourged with cancer, you can see that from the 2023, our temples were being afflicted. So this destruction of Jerusalem is not just to a literal building. Literal building might be burned down by 2030, where maybe the Seventh-day Adventist churches might not stand as buildings. I'm not sure, I don't know, but maybe they might not stand as buildings. And as we read Ezra 7:9, and you can see that the Levites, which are Adventism, they only just arrive in Jerusalem in midway point. You see them arriving there later on, which could be that 2030, midway between midnight cry and the Sunday law. It could be that they've seen the destruction in their literal buildings, and now from the literal buildings they want to create their groups, they want to have their churches, and they want God to abide in their bodies. So I would think that in 2030 the destruction then is to the temple, and in 2040 the destruction is to the city of Jerusalem, which is the man in Judah, and that man is Christ. And Christ cannot be anyone else other than the leadership and the people in Seventh-day Adventist Church. If you like prophecy, like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. I'm going to see you in the next video.